Sometimes things have to go wrong in order to go right. Now, this is a famous quote by US best-selling author Sherilyn Kenyon of the Dark Hunter series. Now, I'm sure that some of the grown-ups sitting in the audience might agree with me over here. You see, almost everyone on this planet these days is obsessed with one thing: getting things done in a perfect way. And to be frank, this is the reason why we belong to such an imperfect world. This pursuit of perfection is what makes the world so imperfect. However, let me take a moment to remind you that if not for these imperfections, we wouldn't be the people who we are today. A recurring thought that I get when I'm sitting alone or when I'm in one of those zoned out moods is, why do we insist so much on perfection in life? Whether the stress and effort we take is worth the outcome. Now, I don't intend to be a 16-year-old philosopher talking to you about this, and sorry for making you feel so. But I was brought to this realization by the course of events that have transpired over the last year. We just do not seem to realize the fact that it is these very imperfections which have shaped up our world. And imagine how boring our lives would be if not for some strokes that go on to define our lives. The world that I'm going to talk to you about tonight is the world of a young 16-year-old boy, my little world, which is somewhere between the perceived perfect and imperfect worlds. A world that has drastically changed over the course of the last year. A year that allowed me to become a more grounded person. Let me take you back to April 2018, when I had just entered year 10, and I was extremely frightened about the fact that I had to take my board exams. All relatives, teachers constantly scaring me about your exams and things like that. You know how it works in the Indian society, right? Anyway, I was extremely obsessed with fitness, which I still am, but it was at a crazy level then. I used to go around counting others' calories, telling them to go work out. I myself had started doing intense workouts without adequate hydration and ventilation. My mother constantly would remind me about the importance of drinking water, and when she would ask me to stop working out, I simply wouldn't listen. Fast forward to 2 months later. June 12th, the turning point in my life. I was sitting in class with a few friends and cracking jokes as usual during a study session. And the next thing I remember is me on the ground, waking up to see myself surrounded by the school doctor, the senior management team, and the ancillary staff. The supervisor asked me what my father's phone number was, which I could fortunately recollect, and I was immediately rushed to the school clinic in a stretcher, where the doctor had informed me I had an 8-minute-long seizure. Something of this sort had never happened before in my life, but I was quick to come to terms with it. My father rushed to school and took me immediately to hospital, where within the first hour, I was shifted into the ICU for observation. I had never been into the ICU before in my life, and never did I expect that this would happen at such an early stage. I was completely taken aback by the whole event. My mother was crying profusely, and my relatives and friends took turns coming in to see me and cheer me up. The next day, I was discharged, and in the meeting with the doctor, I had a lot of restrictions imposed on me. I wasn't, and I'm still not allowed to do a lot of my favorite things. No swimming, no cycling, no go-karting, and the list can go on and on. That was the first time I experienced absolute dread in my life. It was the first sense of realization I had, what sacrifice meant. To rule out possibilities, I was prescribed further tests in India, and as part of the procedure, they had to inject my spine to extract certain brain fluids. This resulted in a lumbar puncture, and I'm still reminded of the excruciating pain as I talk to you now. Days went on, seemed perfect, I must say, for around 9 more months. Fast forward to February 2019, with just a few days left for my board exams to begin. Really crucial. Well, for 16-year-olds. Anyway, I had another seizure. And this time I was in hospital for 3 hours. The reason for my second seizure was improper food habits. I used to eat extremely little food, presuming that eating little would help me stay fit. There also used to be long gaps between my meals, which is detrimental to my health condition. It was extremely disheartening too. The doctor had said that getting a seizure meant that I had a serious case of epilepsy. I was placed on a greater dosage of medicines, and more restrictions were imposed on me. I was left heartbroken, and I had lost all my hope in life. It felt as though I had lost everything, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was left really upset, and I was depressed. I know that these thoughts seem too big to fit in the mind of a 16-year-old, but that was a phase which I went through at that time. In pursuit of a perfect body type, I had ended up inflicting self-harm. From then on till now, I have had a few more repeats, but of less severity. I know that this is a condition and not a disease. Sometimes I feel that I'm experiencing the ramification of my chase after perfection. Sometimes I'm completely clueless as to why this is happening with me. And there are times when I feel that this is the price that I have to pay for all my wrongdoings. However, what I have learned from my stint with suffering is that not everything works on the basis of rationality. Friends and relatives don't have logical answers that can satisfy my whys. There exists a beautiful concept called kintsugi, which is Japanese art of repairing broken pottery. Now, this is an example of that. By applying lacquer on the joints and sprinkling gold dust on the broken parts, they join the pieces together. The philosophy behind this concept is very simple. Embrace your imperfections. Its symbolism is really hard to miss in human life as well. Embrace your imperfections and find happiness. Therefore, I'm applying kintsugi in my life by applying gold dust on my scars, thereby making my scars seem more attractive than what would be perceived by others as perfection. I've started to become more realistic, resilient, and I'm rebuilding myself. I see each imperfection in me for what it is, and I have more respect for my life as a whole. Embracing my imperfections seem like a much better option for me than challenging them. And I urge you all to do the same, because I don't want you to learn the importance of embracing your imperfections the hard way like I did. I'm taking life one step at a time. Well, these are some pictures of my doctors who have treated me. And this is the medical team at school who have never failed to take care of me in times of need. My yoga therapist, Uncle Suresh, and my sister from another set of parents, my support system, who have been my friends throughout, friends and family, and my parents. If not for them, I wouldn't have come this far, and thank you so much for being a great and constant source of support. A mere thank you would simply not do justice to the feelings I have and the gratitude I bear towards you all in my heart. I want to prove to everyone who doubts my ability that I'm the same Avinash that I used to be, and there's nothing wrong with me. When at school, teachers don't let me assume certain responsibilities for activities, thinking that it will be too much for me to handle, or when I can't go on school trips to theme parks with friends, I do feel upset, but these are things which I have to face. I reckon these as challenges that will help further strengthen and discipline myself. If not for this imperfection in my otherwise seemingly imperfect life, would I have a story to tell you all tonight? One that has been of hardship, a story of courage, my story of resilient endurance. Thank you.